Because I like knowing what was rolled. What was I about to do? Oh, right, the shuffles. I like knowing what was rolled when I go to claim an item. That way I can be like, oh, well, yeah, I rolled like a 57, but they rolled like a 93. So, I mean, you can't really argue with that. Some people are like, oh, well, the numbers game is rigged. It's like, who cares? Just roll the lot, man. I mean, you might think it's rigged, but, you know, it's just random number generation. And some people are all on this whole RNGesus type of thing, thinking it's some sort of actual random number. And it's like, no, it's not an actual random number. It's an algorithm. Okay, it's a mathematical algorithm, and it's a very complex mathematical algorithm at that. I forget the exact number of sequence events, but I think it was over 70,000 sequences are considered when calculating random number generation before it starts to loop back on the same pattern again. So if you were wanting to take the route of, in the terms of a blackjack game, they would call it counting cards, so that you could estimate the percentage of what's coming up next. You would have to generate it a certain number of times in order to be able to calculate what's up next, because you need to figure out what number it's about to draw before it draws it. And the only way to do that is to get ahead of the random number generation. Once you're ahead of the random number generation, then you're able to actually go ahead and influence what's going on around you. However, the influence that you gain from such a situation is minimal, because the influence gained is limited to what is actually affected by that RNG. That's what's known as RNG manipulation. If you want to actually study on that topic further, there is a lovely group that performs RNG manipulation all the time, that uploads regularly to YouTube. They call themselves TaskBot. What they are is a tool-assisted speedrun bot. They upload videos that are all about automating the completion of games, video games. They do things in a slightly different playing field, as TaskBot is capable of one input every frame, whereas a non-machine is capable of one input every other frame. So there is a slight variance in skill level, because TaskBot is capable of literally twice the number of inputs. That is not an exaggeration. They really are capable of twice the number of inputs, because in order for a human to input infinite A presses, if you press, A button as fast as you can for the entirety of a game, then, that's one example. But the TaskBot is capable of inputting that same quantity of presses and still has half of the frames available, because TaskBot doesn't need to send the release button message, because a normal person would have to send, press and then release, and then press and then release. But TaskBot just goes press, 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 and it never needs to release. So, it's got a bit of an unfair advantage there. specifically because of that, but that's part of the charm of it. And that specific type of group, the taskbot group, the taskbot itself is just a tool-assisted speedrun bot. You know, it's a script. It's not an actual fully thinking automation or anything like that. It's just a script. But the people who operate the bot do actually perform random number generation manipulation quite frequently. They perform it so frequently, in fact, that they have entire sections of their website dedicated to such events. They have entire groups dedicated to finding all kinds of different little secrets and doodads and knickknacks and all kinds of different things. Like, they really do have something for pretty much anyone there. And it's just a matter of going in and uncovering whatever it is that suits your fancy. Maybe you like to, see things explode. Well, okay, they probably have something for you. Maybe you like to see things get built. They probably have something for you. TaskBot is a very, very widespread and integrated community of people. And so I would not be surprised if that community of people wanted to, reach out to others and just, invite people to enjoy TaskBot with them. Okay. So now I've got slime spawning behind me. I beat you to death with my steak. Face the savory taste of defeat. Brave Sir Knight, do you have a name? Yes, they call me Sirloin. Badoomsh. Okay. And then, let me reorganize this on my bar a little bit. Okay, so next up is diorite. And then andesite. And then granite. Oops. So yeah, the Final Fantasy franchise is definitely very immersive. There is a lot of content that can be discovered still in the Final Fantasy series. I wouldn't be surprised if there's still low-level content to be discovered. I wouldn't be surprised if there's still high-level content to be discovered. I know, for example, when Final Fantasy XI first came out, I heard that before Final Fantasy XI had left Japan, Final Fantasy XI was quite different. There were, for example, world trees. There were the world trees were these apparently supermassive bosses that were world bosses. And then apparently when the world boss was defeated, it left some teleport location or something. I don't know how true that was. That might have been just someone making stuff up. But what I do believe is that there were originally same-sex marriages allowed in Final Fantasy XI. And I would be anxious to see if they started allowing that again. I don't know if they will have, but I'm definitely interested to see if they did. Simply because they don't seem the type that would do that. You know, Square Enix. I know I do try and talk highly of Square Enix because I like the company. They made Final Fantasy, so I kind of like them. At the very least, because they made Final Fantasy. Because they made Final Fantasy such a great game. However, the series definitely has its setbacks as well, of course. The summon system, for example, has never really fully been stable as far as how well balanced it was. It wasn't a very it wasn't very well made. It wasn't very well thought out. Final Fantasy XI did actually balance the summons to a degree, except summoner class specifically is very overpowered, very busted. So there's that. But the other facets of it, for example, hold on, let me craft these. And then for this, I'm going to need some stairs. So I'll craft about one of them. I'll craft 32. I'll craft half a stack. Then I'll do the same for these. So yeah, the summoner class, very OP, very busted. The reason for that is because of the action economy. Most of the monsters are balanced around fighting one-on-one, or perhaps balanced around fighting a group of adventurers. I don't even know if they planned for balancing around battling groups of adventurers originally, but they eventually ended up planning for it, so I suppose it's not all bad. Oh, I'm going to need so many more stairs. Okay. Oops. But yeah, they did a lot of things really well in Final Fantasy XI, and it's rather difficult to put into words just how much better 11 was compared to 14. Like, I told someone from that I knew from, I think, my link shell way back. The link shell being, of course, the Final Fantasy XI version's guild system, where, you know, groups of players work together and beat up bad guys and stuff. But mostly they just chat on the same channel with each other from anywhere in the game. Which is, of course, a very useful thing to have. The friends I had spoken with were telling me how they really missed playing Final Fantasy XI because they were sitting there one day playing Final Fantasy XII as they were, 14, playing Final Fantasy XIV as they were, and they were sitting there and they were realizing, like 12 has its perks. They kind of like 12. 12 is okay in their opinion, but they were sitting there and they were mulling over their options, and they looked at Final Fantasy 12, Final Fantasy 13 they also had, Final Fantasy 14, and then they looked at Final Fantasy 11 and they were like, I really miss playing Final Fantasy 11. Of all the games, they have this most recent MMO release. They have all of their friends sitting there having a great fun time playing Final Fantasy XIV, waiting for them to show up, even some of them, and they're just not interested in 14. And it's like, why not? Well, because 14 didn't do it right. 14 has its issues, and one of the issues that they have is when they transferred over the job class system, they got rid of the unique racial modifiers. So instead of saying, okay, well, we only want a Gulka fighter, for example, because we want someone who's really beefy, really high defense. We want to make sure that the guy's not going to just keel over and die. So they would, of course, look for a specific character. Instead, they are staring at all available options and going, has anybody responded? Nope. Is anybody interested? Nope. It's like, well, great. What are we all doing out here? Don't know. You just don't know. And that's part of the problem. They were wondering, why is it I prefer Final Fantasy XI? I said, it's the job class system. Point blank, it's the job class system. It's not the characters. They didn't really modify the whole formula with affording new characters. It's still the same $12 for the first, $1 for each second. They got so many golden reviews just based on that fact alone, where it was just the money. Like, people loved the price. My God, I really do need to start a slime farm out here. It is ridiculous how good this is going to be for a slime farm. I really do need to map this out and actually have a slime farm here. Like, wow. So I guess that's going to be something I build down here. Let me go ahead and polish this granite. Gonna be so nice being able to craft an entire stack at a time on touchscreen. So nice. It really will. Especially in the stone cutter. I'll get back to you on this. Give me just a moment. Okay, so I did some crafting. I did a lot of crafting. I crafted up 2 stacks of polished granite stairs. That should keep me covered for the majority of this line. I will need to, of course, excavate any stray placements using my pickaxe, because the pickaxe is, of course, the designated tool for a stone staircase. Okay, looks like I was not far off with that estimation of just how many staircases I'm going to need. Good thing I crafted so many. And then I also want to build them over here because I have andesite stairs for this side. But yeah, the MMOs are definitely time consuming, at the very least, because of the activity just simply taking so long, especially if you're hunting a notorious monster for a specific item, which in most cases, if you're of a sufficient level, you're kind of expected to get certain items in an MMO. You don't want to get left behind, as it were. You kind of will have difficulty finding a party worthy of or willing to support a underpowered character, especially if you're a damage dealer type, which I play a damage dealer type. I play a thief on there. So the thief specifically is a damage dealer. They are specialized in retrieving the monster, because you want to bring the monster back to a designated location where you can securely and safely basically beat it down as a team. You want to be able to prevent the monster from getting reinforcements. For example, you don't want the monster to have a bunch of friends show up while you're in the middle of, beating it up, and have your tank, your fighter or samurai or ninja, end up getting completely overrun and overwhelmed, while your healer is sitting there struggling to keep up. That does not end well. I can guarantee you of that. I have seen that in so many parties so fast. They really didn't stand a chance. They tried, don't get me wrong, they tried. But overall, a group of adventurers versus 1 or 2 really high-powered monsters, my money is usually on the really high-powered monsters, because the adventurers don't really stand much of a chance. Like, no offense against the adventurers or anything, but my money's on the monsters. Because, you know, I know what the monsters are wanting to do. What the players are wanting to do is usually similar, but sometimes not. When it's not, that's fine. When it is, that's fine too. Either way, the player's probably still going to get their butts whooped. That's just kind of a given. Okay. Now. Oops. I'm just kind of speed placing it at the moment. And then I go back through and I fill in the gaps. This allows me to rush through the project and not need to worry about things such as, you know, did I place everything correctly the first time? This just gets everything ready for full-on completion of placement. I go back through a second time. Much easier that way. Turns out I did not need this much half slabs, so I will have reserves of all three types apparently. Except for andesite, which I have not done yet. That being said, I could get away with stashing some of these stacks. Since as I expand, I will be spreading out that direction. I don't think I want to do that for the diorite just yet, because I'm pretty sure that the diorite is going to let me fill in a lot of these gaps, because I made a lot of gaps on that one. But yeah, I'm pretty sure the polished granite is going to get used up very soon, but the diorite